Thank you. Good morning, good morning. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call to order our Monday, October 18th, 2021 LCB meeting. We're going to begin with our roll call, and the way we're going to do it is starting from my left way down at the end there. If you would just say your name and the organization that you represent, and we'll go around down. That's down there at the left. Push mic on.
Owen Walker, for Elderly and Veteran Services, Broward County.
Thank you.
Ann Murray, School Board of Broward County.
Mark Levitt, Transportation America.
Gary Reynolds, Department of Children and Family.
Melanie McGill, Career Source Broward.
And Sandy Johnson, MPO and Lighthouse Point Commissioner.
Vera Sherritt, Citizen Advocate Alternate.
Lois Sena, Agency for Persons with Disabilities.
Sue Gallagher, Children's Services Council.
From Crenshaw with the Broward County Community Action Agency.
I can Todd in a National Federation of the Blind.
Afternoon, this is Maria Elisa Amador, Program Analyst, and I'm with the Agency for Healthcare Administration.
Danielle McGill from Ann Stork Center.
Lisa Van Voorst with South Florida Institute on Aging.
Mary Doisman, Florida Department of Transportation.
All right, thank you very much. I'd like to welcome two new members today, and that's Jake McIntyre from the National
Chair Johnson, we
Line.
want to check who's online for the meeting.
Oh, okay, let me just finish welcoming them though. Anyway, Jake McIntyre and Ann Murray from the school board, so we welcome you to our board. Is there anyone online attending from the committee?
Danielle McGill.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. Anyone, Danielle, is there anyone else? No. Okay, we do have a quorum today, so we're all set to go. So I'd like to start with our approval of the minutes from September 20th, 2021. If we could have, if everyone's read them and there's no questions, we could have a motion and a second.
So move Melanie McGill.
Second, Sue Gallagher.
All right, thank you very much. We'll move on and do the same thing with the approval of the agenda.
So move Melanie McGill.
Second, Mary Doisman.
Thank you. Public comments from the floor. Rebecca, do we have any public comments from the floor or anything prior?
No.
No. Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to our action items. The first one is the motion to recommend the Broward MPO approve LCB membership reappointments or and appointments for the Agency for Healthcare Administration and the Veterans Children at Risk. The Agency for Healthcare Administration, Jerome Hill is going to be our new primary, and Mary Elisa Amadon for the alternate. And for the veterans, it's going to be, make sure I get this right, Philip Davis for the primary and Owen Wallace for the alternate. And for Children at Risk, Sue Gallagher for the primary and Keisha Gray for the alternate. So does anybody have any questions about that?
Chair, I have a question. Can we vote ourselves or?
Of course.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
Yes, certainly. Can we have a motion and a second to appoint these folks?
So move Melanie McGill.
Second, Mark Levitt.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes unanimously. A second action item, the motion to approve the coordination agreements between Broward County as the Community Transportation Coordinator and the Ann Stark Center, Christina G. Smith Mental Health Foundation, City of Pembroke Pines as an authorized non-reimbursed transportation disadvantaged operator. Mr. Strobus, would you like to tell them about that?
Certainly. So the Broward County Transit is the CTC contracts with numerous agencies throughout the region that provide transportation to customers attending their services. All of them are nonprofit agencies. By entering into this coordination agreement, they report the trips that they provide and the various funding sources that they have. It also allows them access to apply for FTA 5310 grant funds, which can be used as capital expenses to buy vehicles. This helps alleviate the pressures on the ADA Paratransit and the TD program that Broward County Transit services. So this is not an agreement where Broward County's paying them to provide the services. They're doing it anyways. But this allows them to coordinate their reporting under the county and also to ensure that they're meeting all state 1490 safety regulations. They have a service plan and the vehicles are being inspected on an annual basis.
Thank you. Does anyone have a question for Mr. Strobus?
Chairwoman, I don't have a question for Paul, I don't think, but does it make any difference that the Children's Services Council funds these three entities? Okay, I just want to make sure there's no conflict.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you. Could we have a motion and a second then, please?
So move, Melanie McGill.
Second, Mary Doisman.
All right, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, our third action item is the motion to approve the fiscal year 2020, 2021 annual operating budget. Mr. Strobus again.
Sure. We're required every year to submit an annual operating report to the Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged, outlining all of the services that we provide under the various programs, trips, bus passes. We try to break down some of the demographics, trips by age type, trip purpose, vehicle miles. The data that is included in this report submitted to the state has historically been used for the formula on funds from the TD Trust Fund. And so this will be the first year we're submitting the report where it won't directly attribute to our funding moving forward. The CTD, as I've advised the board in the past, has changed their method of calculating the formula for each community, and it will be based now on invoiced trips versus the AOR. With the AOR, it includes services that the county may choose to provide and self-fund. And so we don't get credit for that anymore in this new model. So again, that is a position that I have as the CTC and Broward County Transit to try to get that decision changed at the CTD level. I'll be attending the FPTA conference, CTD annual conference next week. I'm not sure if I'll have an opportunity officially during the business meeting to discuss it because it's not on the agenda, but hopefully I can at least speak to some of the people up there to let them know how this is going to impact us going forward. Last year's statistics pre-pandemic, 23% of our service was overage. And so while this year's been greatly hampered due to the pandemic and our ridership was much lower than we anticipated, as the future years go forward, if we're only able to be what we get invoiced, what we are allowed to invoice the TD Trip and Equipment Grant, it doesn't take into the fact the services that we provide that exceed that grant value every year. So if there's any questions on this year's report, I'll be happy to answer them for anybody on the board.
Are there any questions?
I have one question. Paul, on page 24, it talks about unmet trip requests and no-shows. Is the no-shows on behalf of the rider or on behalf of the driver?
No-shows are the customer.
Okay.
We classify when our provider fails to meet the trip, it's called a missed trip. So no-shows are the customer booked the trip, the vehicle was there within the 30-minute service window that we give them, or they canceled the trip within our policy, which is 2 hours prior to the start of the window, where then the vehicle couldn't be redispatched for another service trip.
Yeah. Just seemed like a pretty good number, 51,000.
I try not to speak ill, but that number is a direct correlation to some of the quality problems that we have with our on-time performance.
Okay.
Because when we arrive at a destination, we have to dwell so many minutes to try to locate where this customer is, and that's unscheduled time in our day.
Mm.
Or they've missed that no-show, and then we have to go back and get them because we have a no stranding policy at their destination to get them home safely.
Mhm.
And so our vendor has to manipulate the other routes, and it has an adverse effect on our schedules.
Mm.
So there are things that we could decide to do policy-wise with those that are habitual abusers of scheduling trips and then not taking them. It becomes an administrative burden to police that.
Mhm.
You have to show that it's outside of their control. And then there's balancing act. TD, we have a little more flexibility because it's not a civil right like the ADA, but it's very difficult to take something away from somebody. So to penalize them and take away service, you have to have due process. You have to warn them in advance. You have to have a grievance process, which we have, but just to go through those things for a trip that may or may not have been their fault until you don't know. So we've looked at it many times. A lot of my peers around the country have had stringent no-show policies
Mhm.
and then get their hands slapped by the Department of Justice for maybe being a little too overbearing. And so here in Broward, we've kind of made a policy that it's kind of the price of doing business.
Mhm.
And nobody else riding public transit really gets hurt for not getting to a bus. So why should we penalize people with disabilities? If we're in a tougher financial position, that might be something we have to bear down on. But right now, we do monitor it, but we don't police it.
Yeah, no, that's helpful. And, I don't know, I mean, I certainly want to protect people's confidentiality, but if there were some folks who were involved with programs that our program staff could support that person, I don't know if at some point that might be a helpful conversation.
The one program I can tell you right now we are monitoring is the introduction of our Rider's Choice taxi program.
Mhm.
We've got people that are booking their trip on Tops and then canceling it and taking the cab ride to see which one got the better window or response time. And so that's kind of the people in there, we're kind of warning to say, look, you can't have both. I mean, it's there to complement, but you shouldn't be booking one, both trips to see which one's better,
Mhm.
because then you're sticking it to the other program. So those, because that's an opt-in program,
Mhm.
we're addressing with some people that are abusing that. But if it was somebody going to a particular program or a site, sometimes we'll work with the program to adjust maybe pickup times, maybe it works better. A lot of times what we find, it's the parents have to get to work, so they're trying to get them picked up earlier, then the site's not open, and there's all sorts of.
Yeah, no, that's helpful. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right, then we can go ahead and have a motion to approve this in a second.
Sue
So
Gallagher,
moved,
motion.
Melanie McGill.
Second, Sue Gallagher.
Okay, and we need to vote on this with a roll call, so we'll do the same thing as we did in the beginning, only this time you can just say your name. So we'll start and go around, please.
Owen Walker.
And Murray.
Mark Lovett.
Gary Reynolds.
Melanie McGill approved.
I guess I must also state that if you're saying your name at the roll call, you're voting yes. So just for the record. Okay, go ahead.
Or share it.
Sinat,
Sue Gallagher, yes.
From Crenshaw, yes.
Mary Dorsman, yes.
Lisa Van Voorst, yes. Maria Elisa Amador, yes.
Jake McIntyre, yes.
Okay, there being no, Danielle, did you want to vote at home?
Yes.
Okay, Danielle votes yes, so motion passes. And
Yes.
let the record also show that Charlotte Mather Taylor came in and has joined us. All right. that finishes our action items. And now we will go on to our non-action items. Paratransit update and transportation disadvantage grant tracking report. Again, we have Mr. Strobus.
Good afternoon. Since we just met last month, there hasn't been a lot of things go on. We did approve the FY22 operating budget for this coming year. We're fully funded to meet the anticipated ridership in both our ADA and TD program for the year. We were also able to bill the first quarter of our trip and equipment grant. And for the month of September, we finally exceeded the monthly drawdown, which is a good thing. That shows our ridership starting to get back up there. So we're looking forward to that. Overall system ridership continues to stay level at about 60 to 65% of pre-pandemic monthly ridership. Masks are still required for anybody riding public transit per the federal government through January 2022. Paratransit Services continues with their air purification systems running on our cutaway buses anytime somebody's on board the bus, anytime the bus is running. But while the bus is in service, drivers are still going out with rags and cleaning solution to hit the high traffic touch areas on our buses to assist. In the month of September, operations required due to the ridership increase, we stopped single rider trips and began to multi-load schedule again. In our cutaways, we're limiting that to 3 to 4 people instead of the full 10 to 12 to still allow for some distancing, but we could no longer support single rides on our vehicles. The vendor is both vendors at our call center and our operations center continue to struggle with absenteeism due to COVID exposure and protocols that we have in place. Mandatory absences until they're tested negative if they're not vaccinated. And so they've done a really good job of stepping up with other drivers, overtime, what have you, to try to fill that gap to ensure that we're not turning down any trip requests in our program. Hiring continues to be a problem in our program as well as others that you see in the media, and multiple job fairs and classes that we've set up have only been able to bring in a handful of new drivers to the pool. Unfortunately, we're losing it to the school board, to companies like Amazon that are offering pretty significant benefits to try to get drivers in their own company. So we're continuing to battle that in our job market here. As I mentioned, I'll be attending the conference next week. Barry, you're coming too, right? Again, this is an annual conference that the Florida Public Transportation Association partners with the Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged. It's being held at the Hilton in Daytona Beach this year. It's a session that allows us to intermingle with all the other transit properties around the state, various classes and conference sessions to talk about the topics that affect all of us, as well as an annual expo to meet with the industry of vehicles and technology that's available to us. The CTD's business meeting will be on the Monday, the 25th at 2 p.m. So we'll be attending that as well. And that's all I have for my update.
I just wanted to ask you one question. In talking with the leaders like in Dade County or Palm Beach County or even around the state, are everybody's numbers still way off, like down at 65% or so of pre-pandemic ridership?
It fluctuates county to county. Some have come back a little higher. It depends on the destination that people use their paratransit for. A high volume of riders here in Broward County were to go to adult program, day programs, high congregate attendance sites. Those facilities have not opened back up to 100% attendance, as well as I think loved ones that needed to put their their family into a program so they could go to work. I think some of the remote working, teleworking has changed that dynamic as well. They don't need to have them in a day program. They're having them stay at home with them while they work from home. And so there are some counties I've spoken to, Palm Beach, for example, they had a higher jump back, they're about 75 to 80%. Miami's about where we are, ridership wise. But then, I talked to like Pinellas and they're like 85%. So they're even higher. They just didn't have the type of high volume sites that we had here in Broward.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have a question they want to ask about that? No? Okay, before we do the administrative items, we have to say hello to Charlene. I don't think that I welcomed you in the beginning, so Charlene is attending virtually with us today, but she's our leading force, so thank you. All right, so we finish up with our administrative items, which hopefully you've had a chance to look through. There's a couple one in particular I wanted to talk about was the E-Town Hall YouTube recording on helping Broward move. I hope that possibly you did get to hear it the night that they had that, and if not, that you listened to it on your agenda here with the link, because it was a great meeting and there was a lot of really good information, and Danielle gave a wonderful report of a person that was involved in actually participating in the program and not just those of us as the leaders in planning the program. So do listen to that if you haven't already, because it has a lot of great information that you can use with your organizations and your place in the community, et cetera, to make sure that everybody knows everything that's out there to help. So we have basically, I don't think anything. Does anyone have a question about any of these administrative items or anything to add to them? Charlene, did you have anything that you wanted to say about anything here?
Yeah, when you get to number 8, I believe you have that on your radar for member comments.
Right, yes, definitely. I was going to do that if there were no questions about the items, but yes, member comments. I know we have a new member. We have several new members today, but I wanted to particularly welcome Jake McIntyre, and he's the chapter president of the National Blind Federation, is it, Jake?
Yes, Federation of the Blind.
Okay, very good. Would you like to tell the folks here a little bit about that? And I understand you just had a White Cane Day that I was very interested when they shared that with me.
Wait, yes, well, the person who plays I'm taking here, Tom Ryan, he was the president for 23 years.
Oh, my.
So I'm just stepping in behind him, and hopefully I can do some of the work he did. I know I'll never be able to fill his shoes, but no. But it's my first time ever being on a board, except at the NFB. So I'm just trying to familiarize myself with the way things go here. And so I can be of some help. So I guess that's about all I have to say.
Jake, this is Paul. Why don't you tell the folks here what the NFB does and how many members you have in our chapter here in Broward County?
Well, right now we have 34 members. And we advocate for the ADA laws. That's what the NFB does. I had just joined just before I became the president, so I didn't know a lot about it. And I'm still learning. Like Paul said, we had our White Cane event Friday, this past Friday, but we had to do it virtual, which before the pandemic, we always held it at the library downtown. And we get out and we actually march on the streets, crossing the street backwards and forwards, to show the people that blind people can cross the street themselves. Um, Well, since we were doing it virtual now, we hope to be back at the library next year. I guess that's about it then.
All right, thank you very much. And our other new member, Anne Murray, I think we all know what the school board does, but if you'd like to add something to that.
Is away from you. It's usually the other way around. The school board has always successfully trained many people and they go to other agencies, but we've been very aggressive in our wages. But also, some people don't even recognize that our students, especially our high school students and our technical students, ride the public transportation system. So we have a very good partnership. It isn't just all yellow school buses that transport our children. So we're very grateful, and it's been a great partnership, and it's worked well for the young people who need that link to get to school. So thank you.
Thank you and welcome to both of you. Are there any other members that would like to make comments? Danielle, do you have anything you'd like to comment about at home?
I really enjoyed participating in the e-town hall with Paul and with the Vocal Point Center, Senior Center as well with Karen. It was very informative. I just hope that we reached people, and I hope it gave them a better understanding of what is out there and how paratransit is supposed to be used and how it can be used to get to other modes as well. So pretty much that's what I wanted to say. If Charlene could share some of the data that she shared with Paul and I and the others that participated about the participants, I think that would interest you guys in some way. So maybe she could send that out to all of you. I will not be attending the conference this year in person. I may be able to participate virtually. So, yeah.
All right, thank you. Charlene, did you have any of those statistics handy to report to us?
I do not have them handy. I apologize. I wasn't prepared for that question, Danielle, but thank you for bringing it up. I will, however, ensure that we get that on the next agenda. And it's possible, knowing Mr. Strobus, he might have that up his sleeve. I know we shared that just recently. So if he doesn't, not to worry, I will definitely make sure it gets on the agenda for the next meeting.
No problems.
They were
course I do.
interesting statistics as we
So
were voting on.
the MPO partnered with an agency that robo-dialed about 69,000 people in Broward County. 26,000 calls were answered and 15,000 of them went to machine, 7,000 declined the call, and about 3,500 people accepted the call and stayed on for a period of time. There was some stats on how long they stayed on, but at the end of the call, there was still over 580 people listening to the presentation, as Danielle mentioned. Herself, Karen Diaz from Northwest Focal Point, and myself explaining what transportation options were out there for individuals and how it might assist either themselves or loved ones that no longer can drive or want to maintain that level of independence. So it was handled by Zoom and by the phone, and there was some survey questions as well, asking if they knew about certain things in the community. So not a bad turnout for, calling that many people. So that's what she had.
I thought it was interesting that in some of the questions, the people that were actually answering them were not the riders. They were people that had never ridden the transportation. And I was pleased to hear that, because I thought, well, these are people that can tell other people, and they're members of different agencies. And so the more you can get it out there, the better it is. So I liked the way they asked those questions, and I liked the statistics that came back from it.
Yeah, the pool of callers wasn't specific to riders or people with disabilities. It was basically census data of what pockets of zip codes had maybe the highest average age in the last census and or highest disability rate. And so the person on that phone may not have been somebody looking for a ride, but found it interesting enough to say, hey, maybe that can help my mother, my father, or what have you. So yeah, I think it was a wide range of people that were involved.
Very good. It was a great idea. All right, anybody else have anything? All right, with that being said, our next meeting is January 24th, 2022 already, ladies and gentlemen. Can we have a motion to adjourn in a second?
So move. Oh, go ahead, Mark.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, Melanie McGill.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. See you in 22.
Fine, Bob. I think, didn't we just wait on year 2000?